Today we are working on a very special project, my girlfriend's 240SX. It's beginning to look like an abandoned 240SX. Over the past few months we've been collecting parts to build this car. This spring it was not running correctly. It was running super rich and bogging out, so we decided to park it. And it's a good thing we did, because recently when we took off the turbo that was on her SR20, it was blown. She currently has an S13 Blacktop SR20. We've decided to upgrade to a Garrett T28 turbo. This is a ball bearing turbo. It'll spool much faster and has a lot higher power output capabilities. Now, while we're putting the new turbo on, we are also putting a new turbo manifold on. This turbo does not just bolt on, so we needed to order a few other pieces. So we have a clocking kit, gaskets, hardware, you name it. We're gonna be going through all of that in this video, and hopefully I can surprise her with the car being done. She barely even got to drive this car this year. I feel so bad. Maybe we can start with something easy, like throwing the intercooler on. We ended up having to take it off because these mounts ended up breaking off, and my good friend Smokes welded that back on, and he also repaired the Tomei exhaust manifold. These manifolds sound amazing, but they're known to crack. So he went around and welded everything and reinforced it. Shout out to Smokes. He also plugged up a hole that was drilled into this. Luckily we brought the Z work truck, so we got some tools to work with. Luckily when we took this intercooler off, I put all the hardware back where it needs to go, so I don't need to go looking for it. Same with the tabs here on the bottom. Now we just gotta slide this thing up. Can't forget to take the tape off first. Intercooler is officially on and mounted. Now we can start working on the manifold side of things. First thing we're gonna do, let's take off the old gasket. Notice how there's only 2 exhaust studs still remaining. Okay, this thing was definitely leaking. You can see the black spots. That's how you know exhaust was getting through. So most of the studs came out when I took off the nuts. So I ordered this Mazworks stud kit. It comes with a little fitting on the end so you can take off the studs very nicely. But we need to remove these other 2 studs first. So I'm gonna have to use these 2 nuts and do the jam nut style to remove them. All right, let's see if that was enough. There we go, now it's been enough. First one is out. Luckily, we only have to do one more. Before we put the new studs in, let's clean up this exhaust mounting surface. Just giving it a nice light scuff with a scrub pad. I don't have a red Scotch-Brite right now, so the green scrub pad's gonna have to do. New studs going in. And if you don't have a set of E-Torques, a 6mm in this case will work. Next, let's assemble the Tomei exhaust manifold and the T28 turbo. Hello. Fun fact, when you order a brand new T28, it actually comes with an OEM gasket. Or I guess not a Nissan gasket, but a Garrett gasket. It's a Garrett turbo. Oh, and an exhaust outlet. Didn't know it came with that one. This is the one we're looking for. The directions don't say anything about which way this gasket goes. There is a indented side and then a recessed side. Not really too sure. Guess we'll find out the hard way. This one's only gonna fit one way. So shiny. Oh, more instructions. Oh, it's got a drain gasket too. Good, because I forgot to order one. I did, however, order the oil drain. The T28 oil drain is different from the T25. I don't have the bolts though. All right, here's the old setup. Guess we're gonna start robbing some parts off of it. Honestly, that bolt was already pretty loose. That probably explains why there's so much oil around it. T25 oil drain versus T28 oil drain. This one has an insane curve to it. Damn, they could have deburred this a little better. Throw on our gasket. Thankfully there's still clearance to actually tighten it. Now we're left with 3 other ports. We have the drain completed. This one's coolant. The one on top, that's oil. Oil feed, that's important to know. and another coolant on this side. Now since this T28 turbo is a ball bearing turbo, T25 does not need to be restricted for the oil. Whereas the T28 does need an oil restriction. That's where we have this come into play. This is an oil restrictor. We just basically need to put it right on top of where the oil feed goes. This is a 0.03 for a GT ball bearing turbo. Look at how small the opening is. Also, this will only fit one way, so you can't put it in backwards. Good to know. All right, we have these turbos oriented in the same way, so let's do this coolant line next. First, we gotta take off the line, then we'll take off the adapter fitting. Such oddball sizing. This fitting is an 18 millimeter, and the oil restrictor was a 13 millimeter. The coolant ports utilize crush washers. We're gonna replace this crush washer with a new one. I've already moved over the coolant port for the other side, and this is going to be the inside coolant port, which is the hardest one to get to on the car. And I also realized that our oil port is not going to work either, because this line goes to a banjo bolt. Just when I thought I had all the parts to do this. I want her to at least drive this thing once this year, you know? Looks like the T28 did not come with studs either, so we're going to have to rob these off the T25. Another jam nut method. Seems like a common theme in today's video. We got the studs off. Now we'll thread them into the T28. I also stole the gasket off the T25 because it was still in good condition. Well, I guess we can take off the exhaust outlet next. This is an ISIS outlet. That's how old this is. There's no more ISIS. They had to convert their name to ISR because of the whole ISIS crisis thing. ISIS crisis. Actually, now that I'm looking at this turbo again, the old one at least, I might actually be able to remove the banjo fitting on the end of the line. Let's remove that oil line and see if we can make it work. Sweet. Let's see if this threads onto the oil restrictor. And it does not. All right, I ended up just going out and buying some new lines. These are for a top mount, unfortunately. They're made by P2M, Phase 2 Motorsports. But it does have an oil line that we can use, something that will fit. And I guess it's good to have spare coolant lines down the line if we need them. And I also picked up a locking tab for the turbo bolts. I'm gonna slap the rest of the lines on here, and then we can hopefully finally install this new turbo to the manifold. As a quick test, threads right on. Money. It is finally time to assemble the turbo to the manifold. I feel like it's taken so long to get to this stage, but I'm thrilled that we're finally here. Let's grab the gaskets here. Still don't know which way is the top. Guess we'll find out the hard way. This is gonna look sweet. All right, now we get the locking tabs. Turbo nuts too. Let's put the tabs on first though. This is the fun part, putting all the new stuff together. Now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should have tightened these before I put this coolant line on, because I won't have very good access to get this back nut here. All the turbo bolts are now tightened. All the lines are reinstalled. Let's fold down those locking tabs. Oh, I already did that one. That's what it looks like. See how it's holding the nut in place, basically? And that's with it not folded up, it's straight out. I just grab like a channel locks or something and just try and flip it over. Now we do still have to install the clocking kit on the T28, but we can do that once it's on the car. Before it gets dark, I want to install the manifold onto the car so I can see everything. So let's do that now. Let's put on our 5-layer gasket first. That would suck to forget. It looks like the turbo is coming in contact with this little heat shield on the motor mount. So I need to take that off. And while I have access to this oil drain, I might as well install the oil drain rubber tubes there. That'll make it a lot easier to just slide in when we're throwing the turbo on. This is the OEM T28 oil drain. It's different compared to the T25. Tube is on. Let's reinstall the turbo. We'll start threading the rest of the manifold nuts. Oh, almost dropped that. You usually want to try and tighten these from the inside out to to evenly space the gasket. The manifold is all tightened down. Now we need to work on getting the lines connected. So this coolant line goes to the back of the head, right around here. And then we have the oil line right here. That one goes to this point, right next to the motor mount. And then there's a port on top of it, which goes to the coolant line. You can actually see it right there. And those get washers in between the fitting. Typical banjo bolt style. So here's the oil fitting that we need. Put a new crush washer on that one. And we'll slide on this new banjo that came with the line. And then another crush washer. And then into the block. Alright, oil line is now completely done. Let's do the last coolant line. Now I can get ready to get the exhaust outlet onto the new turbo. But I also just remembered I don't have studs on the new turbo. It's kind of interesting to me that the new turbo does not come with the required studs. These two are studs and the rest are bolts. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to try and extract these. We'll use the double nut method once again. Starting to think these exhaust studs are not coming out. It's not holding whatsoever. I may have to come back to those. Might have to just run it with 2 missing studs for now. Not ideal, but hey man. It is what it is. Oh, that's gonna have to go on from the bottom too. Another thing I'm noticing is I think this outlet is actually hitting the block. There's not enough clearance to even fit it in here. I can fit a bolt through the hole, but it's sitting on the block where I can fit it. So that means we're gonna have to order more parts. Can you guys believe it's only 5:05 p.m.? Pitch black outside. But we are still going to power through this. I did end up putting the rest of the exhaust on, even though the turbo outlet only has 2 bolts holding it on. I really need to be able to drive this car and move it. It's been sitting for months. So next, we have all of the lines connected. That's great. And the exhaust is all done. I verified the oil drain. That's good. Now we need to install the clocking kit for the inlet here and also the turbo output right here. So we're gonna have to steal this off of the T25, and then we have this kit to clock it because the T28 puts it out at a different proportion than the T25. Let's start with the inlet. That sounds easy, right? All right, let's take off these nuts. This has a gasket on both sides, so we can slide that right on there. All right. Now there's special nuts that we put on in there because they need to be recessed. Okay, maybe not, these are all bolts. So it turns out I don't think I needed to use these studs to begin with because it utilizes just the bolts instead. So we installed those studs for no reason. That's all right. I'll take them out real quick. Luckily this is nice and accessible, so it's no big deal. Oh. The recessed side faces out. I did not bring my Allen key set, but luckily I have this little tool. Let's get the job done. Next we'll slide this guy on. Now that it's clocked, we can put it on in a different angle. Otherwise it would have come out facing down. That's the whole point of this clocking kit, is to put it back to where it's supposed to be. Next, let's take off this guy. Okay, so there is a gasket on this one. Haru, what are you doing out of the house? What? Sorry, that was my freaking cat. Alright, let's see how this next guy fits on there. Somewhere over here. Does have a gasket on this side, so we're good. Now to me, it looks like there should be a gasket on here, like the other side had. But unfortunately, this company did not include it. So I'm gonna reuse the old OEM one. And hopefully that'll do the trick for now, while I wait for another one to come in. Well, at this point, the turbo is completely bolted on and fully connected. The next step is really just putting all the accessories back on, remount the power steering. I guess I can put on the wastegate vacuum before I forget to do that. Just slide that on there. Reattach the intercooler piping. This goes back on here. This should be pretty interesting to fit in here. Looks like the power steering line is directly in the center of where this pipe needs to go. Should I go on top or bottom? Next, let's install the intercooler pipe. Now I do still have to tighten this on the intercooler. I left it loose on purpose so that I can move it around this much. At this point, the car is ready for its very first test start. Now before I fully test start it, I just want to crank it over a little bit. A couple of months ago, I did a compression test on this engine because I was questioning the health of it, but I left out the spark plugs. I didn't put them back in, and that's because they were blown. So we have new spark plugs to put in, and I just feel like it's a good idea to have oil flowing through the turbo before fully starting it. I don't know, just my thought process. And I also am going to need to top off the coolant, although I won't need that for an initial test start. But that also means I need to steal the battery out of my Z. Alright, now let's verify that there's no oil leak coming out of any of the lines for the turbo. That's everything we just touched. Oh wow, this looks really nice actually. I'm very impressed, very pleased with the outcome. It can look nice all at once, but if it doesn't perform, who cares? Looks good to me, so time to put some spark plugs in. We're going to be installing BKR7E NGKs. After my inspection on this side, I found a fuel leak. That's crazy, that wasn't there before. At least not that I can remember. It's leaking out of the rail, this little rubber piece. I'm gonna replace that line really quick. We got the old line knocked out of there. Let's do another test prime to make sure it's not leaking. Let's do another check. Looks good. Alrighty, here goes nothing. Wow, it started right up. Sounds pretty healthy, actually. Started right up. That's insane. This thing's been sitting for months. I guess I'll let it idle for just a few minutes, not too long because we're still low on coolant. We're gonna go top off the coolant and maybe we can take it for a test drive. I have no idea what's going on with the gauges here. Yeah. Test drive. Oh, I forgot auto seatbelts. Sounds so good, so healthy. Still running really rich though. I think we can finally put this center trim back on. Oh, that's right, I stole the shift boot out of here. That's why we took that off. Dude, this windshield is so dirty. I'm gonna go straight to the car wash. Let's take a quick pit stop and look everything over. I was fully planning on washing this car for Fran, but honestly she gets so much satisfaction out of cleaning things that I'll just let her do it. I will say it is acting the same as it did before, although before the turbo started going out and smoking. But basically after a load, like after you're in boost and you just let off the throttle and you go in neutral, the car would die. He's doing that again, and I suspected the turbo was gonna be the fix for that, but I guess not. I do have a brand new OEM engine coolant temp sensor, which could cause something like that to happen. So maybe we'll throw that on tomorrow before our next test drive. It feels good to have a car moving that's been sitting for so long, you know? Just covered in poop. This thing keeps stalling out. I'm gonna unplug the O2 sensor and see if that makes any change. I also unplugged and plugged back in the battery to reset the computer. I had a common issue like this in one of my Integras, and that was the fix, a new O2 sensor. So I'm I'm gonna just try and see if unplugging this one makes any change, especially because it's still running on the stock ECU. Still died. Although the test drive was successful, let's try and put on that coolant temp sensor real quick. It wasn't successful enough. You can't be having the car dying out on you. That's just, you know, it's just not a good time. The coolant temp sensor is right here. So we're gonna just clear this wiring out of the way, take off the connector, and hopefully put a socket over it. I don't have my 1/2-inch ratchet, so I'm using a breaker bar. It's working though. Just looks old. All right, let's put the new crush washer on the new one and install it. Now both of these sensors here, I know it's kind of hard to see, are for the coolant. The one with 2 pins is for the ECU, the single pin is for the cluster. Plug this back in.
Very carefully.
You ready to drive your car, dude?
Mm-hmm. I'm excited.
All right, here we go.
The seat's so far back.
I know, it's so far back. All the way up. Man, this windshield.
Disgusting. What is that even about? It's so weird driving like a different car because all I've driven is the Tag for so long. Oh, there's spider webs in here, new ones, because I got everything out.
What? Eyes on the road?
No, I don't want to drive. I'm scared.
All right, I can drive.
I'm scared.
Pull over.
I'm scared. It does drive good, but it feels so weird with like a different clutch than the Tag. You're like so used to that.
This clutch is way different than the Integra.
It's nice though. It's good. It's
Yeah.
really like soft and gentle. Like
Right.
it drives really good.
You washing or me washing?
Me.
Oh, I'm so used to grabbing the e-brake right here because that's where it is on the Z. Pre-soak? No, I use the soap.
I'm gonna wet it and then soak it up.
Oh man, the roof is the worst. Damn, this thing is shiny now. Dude, this is glowing in the sun. Look at this thing. Look how bright it is.
That's a lot better.
A lot less poop on it. Dude, we just parked and ate some food here. Took the car out, of course. And look who parked up with us. I don't know who owns this thing, but this is a Nissan Cima. Right-hand drive from Japan. VIP car. Super clean. SSRs, got Z brakes in the back. Damn. That is sick. Got the JDM plate still on there. Wow. Great job. Great car. Even has like the old school lockout thing. Decent. What do you think?
Yeah, this looks really nice.
Someday we'll have one on the streets.
Do you see the license plate?
What does it say? No way! Yakuza! Yeah, see? They know. They know what's up. That's cool. Montana plates in Illinois. Nissan badge looks sick. Luckily the car cleaned up nice. We do have some things going on in the future. We're gonna have to order that wiring harness next and probably a MAF as well. since it's still dying out, but it still came out perfect. I'm glad this worked with no issues. How does it feel to own one of the coolest cars ever?
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah, sick. Unfortunately, even with the new engine coolant temp sensor, it still dies out. So I'm gonna have to diag that further. But that's gonna end today's video. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. Don't forget to drop a like if you haven't already. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.